Chapter 27. How they came to Bechelaren. Then the Margrave went to where he found the ladies, his wife with his daughter, and told them straightway the pleasing tidings he had heard, that the brothers of their lady were come thither to their house. My dearest love, quoth Rudiger, ye must receive full well the noble high-born kings. When they came here to court with their fellowship, ye must give fair greeting too to Hagen, Gunther's man. With them come one also, hight Dunkert. The other is named Folke, well beseen with courtesy. Ye and my daughter must kiss these, and abide by the knights with gentle breeding. And this the ladies vowed. Quite ready they were to do it, and from the chests they hunted out the lordly robes, in which they would go to meet the warriors. Fair dames were passing busy on that day, and men saw but little of false colours on the ladies' cheeks. Upon their heads they wore the bright bands of gold, rich chaplets these were, that the winds might not dishevel their comely hair. And this is true in faith. Let us now leave the ladies with these tasks. Much hasting over the plain was done by Rudiger's friends to where one found the lordlings, whom men then received well into Margrave's land. When the Margrave, the doughty Rudiger, saw them coming toward him, how joyfully he then spake, Be ye welcome, fair sirs, and your liegemen too. I be fain to see you in my land. And low obeisance the knights then made, in good faith, without all hate, that he bare them all good will. And he showed full well, and Hagen he gave a special greeting, for him had he known of yore. To Folke from Burgundy land he did the same, and Dankwart he welcomed too. The bold knight spake, Sith ye will purvey us, knights, who shall have a care for our men-at-arms, whom we have brought? Quoth then the Margrave, A good knight shall ye have, and all your fellowship. I'll purvey such guard for whatever ye have brought with you, of steeds and of trappings, that naught shall be lost, that might bring you harm, not even a single spur. Ye footmen pitch the tents upon the plain, that ye loose I'll pay in full. Take off the bridles, and let the horses run. Seldom had host done this for them afore, therefore the guests made merry. And when that was done, the lordlings rode away, and the footmen laid them everywhere upon the grass. Good ease they had. I ween they never fared so gently upon their way. The noble Margravine with her fair daughter was come out before the castle, and one saw stand by her said that lovely ladies and many a comely maid. Great store of armlets and princely robes they wore, and the precious stones gleamed afar from out their passing costly weeds. Fair indeed were they fashioned. Then came the guests, and alighted there straightway. Oh, what great courtesies now one found among the Burgundian men! 36 maids, now many other dames, whose persons were wrought as fair as heart could wish, went forth to meet them with many a valiant man. Fair greetings were given there of by noble dames, and the young Margravine kissed all 3 kings, as did her mother too. Close at hand stood Hagen. Her father bade her kiss him, but when she gazed upon him she seemed so fearful that she had fain left it undone. Yet she must needs perform what the host now bade her do, and her colour changed first pale, then red. Dankwart too she kissed, and then the minstrel, and for his great prowess was this greeting given. The young Margravine took by the hand knight Gisler of the Burgundian land. The same her mother did to Gunther, the valiant man. Full merrily they went hence with the heroes, and the host walked to Gernot's side with a broad hall, where the knights and ladies safe them down. Soon they bade pour out of the guests good wine. Certes heroes might never be better purveyed than they. Rudiger's daughter was gazed upon with loving glances, so fair she was, and forsooth many a goodly knight caressed her in his mind. And well did she deserve this, so high was she of mood. The knights thought that they would, but it might not come to pass, and back and forth shot the glances at maids and dames. Of them sat there now, the noble fiddler bare the host's good will. Then they parted after their custom, knights and ladies going to the different sides. And in the broad hall they set up the tables and served the strangers in lordly wise. For the sake of the guests the noble Margravine went to table, but let her daughter stay with the maidens, where she stays safe by right. The guests saw naught of her, which irked them sore in truth. And when they had eaten and drunk on every side, men brought the fair again into the hall. Nor were merry speeches left unsaid, and many such spake Forcor, this brave and lusty knight. Both them and all the noble minstrels spake, Mighty Margrave, God hath dealt full graciously with you, for he hath given you a passing comely wife, and thereto a life of joy. And were I a prince, quoth the minstrel, and should I wear a crown, I would fain to have a wife, your comely daughter. This my heart doth with, for she is lovely for to see, thereto both noble and good. Then answered the Margrave, How might that be, that king should ever crave the dear daughter of mine? My wife and I are exiles. What booteth in such ease the maiden's passing comeliness? To this Gernot the well-bred man made answer, An I might have love after mine own desire, I shall be ever glad of such a wife. Hagen replied too in full kindly wise, My lord Grisler must take a wife, and the Margravine is of such high kin that I and all his liegemen would gladly serve her, should she wear a crown in Burgundy land. This speech thought Rudiger passing good, and Gotland too, indeed, enjoyed their mood. And then the heroes brought to pass that the noble Grisler took her to wife, as did well befit a king. For who may part what shall be joined together? Men prayed the Margravine to go to court, and swore to give him the winsome maid, and he too vowed to wed the lovely fair. For the maiden they set castles and land aside, and this the hand of the noble king did pledge with an oath, and Lord Gernot too, that this should hap. Then spake the Margrave, Sith I have naught of castles, I will ever serve you with my troth. As much silver and gold will I give my daughter, as 100 sumpters may barely carry, that it may please the hero's kin in honour. And after the custom men bade them stand and ring, and over against her many a youth stood, blithe of mood, and in their minds they harboured thoughts, as young folks still are wont to do. Men then gain asked the winsome maid whether she would have the knight or no, and loath in part she was, and yet she thought to take the stately man. She shamed her of the question, as many another maid hath done, for her father Rudiger counselled her to answer yes, and gladly take him. In a trice young Grisler was at her side, and clasped her in his white hands, albeit but little time she might enjoy him. Then spake the Margrave, Ye noble and mighty kings, when ye now ride again, as is the custom, home to Burgundy, I will give with you my child, that ye may take her with you. This then they vowed, and now men must needs give over all the noisy joy. They bade the maiden hie her to her bower, and bade the guests to sleep and rest them gainst the day. Meanwhile men made ready the food, and the host purveyed them well. When now they had eaten, they would ride hence to the Hunnish lands. A la guard against that well, spake the noble host, ye must tarry still, for full seldom have I gained such welcome guests. And to this Dankwart replied, Forsooth this may not be. Where would you find the food, the bread and wine, that ye must have so many a warrior another night? And when the host heard this, he spake, Give over the speech, my dear lords, you must not say me nay. Forsooth I'd give you a victual for fortnight, with all your fellowship that is come hither with you. King Etzel hath taken from me as yet full little of my goods. Whoever much they demurred, still they must needs tarry, and there until the 4th morning, when such deeds were done by the bounty of the host, that it was told after he gave his guests both mounts and robes, and no longer might they stay, for they must fare forth. Though his bounty held, Rudiger wot how to save but little. Naught was denied the crowd, and would not but please them all. Their noble mane now brought saddled for the gate the many steeds, and to them came forth 3 stranger knights. In their hands they bare their shields, for they would ride to Etzel's land. Before the noble guests came forth from the hall, the host had proffered everywhere his gifts, and he was now to live bountifully. In mickle humours, to Gressel he had given his comely daughter. To Gunther, the worshipful knight, who seldom took a gift, he gave a cost of mail. And such the noble and mighty king wore well with honour. And Gunther bowed low over noble Rudiger's hand. And then to Gernot he gave a weapon good enow, that which he later bare full glorious in strife. and little did the Margrave's wife begrudge him the gift. But though it good, Rudiger was forced to lose his life. Gotland offered Hagen a loving gift. As well befit her, he took it, sith the king had taken one, that he should not fare forth from her to the feasting without her present. Later he gainsayed it. Of all that I had ever seen, quoth Hagen, I crave to bear naught else save that shield on yonder wall. Fain would I take that with me to Etzel's land. And when the Margravine heard Hagen's words, it minded her of her grief. Tears became her well, and she thought full dearly on Nudung's death, whom Wittig had slain. From this she felt the stress of sorrow, and to the knight she spake, I'll give you the shield, and would to God in heaven that he still lived who bare it once in hand. He met his death in battle, and for him I must ever weep, which giveth me, poor wife, dire woe. The noble Margravine rose from her seat, and with her white hand she seized the shield, and to Hagen the lady bore it. He took it in his hands, and this gift was worthy bestowed upon the knight. A cover of shining silk concealed its colours, for it set with a precious stone. In sooth the daylight never shone on better shield, and had any wish to buy it at its cost, 'twas well worth 1,000 marks. Hagen bade the shield be borne away. Then Dankwart came to court, and to him the Margrave daughter gave great store of rich apparel, that which he later wore among the Hume in passing lordly wise. However many gifts were taken by them, naught would have come into the hands of any, save through the kindness of the host, who proffered them so far. Later they became such foes that they were forced to strike him dead. Now the daughtry Folker went courteously with his fiddle, and stood before Gotland, and he played sweet tunes and sang to hear her songs. And thus he took his leave and parted from Bechelaren, and the Margravine bade fetch a chest. Now hear the tale of friendly guest. 12 rings she took out, and placed them on his hand. There ye must bear hence to Etzel's land, and wear them at court for my sake. Whosoever ye turn, that men may tell you how ye have served me yonder at the feast. What the lady craved, the later carried out full will. Then spake the host to guest, Ye shall journey all the gentler, for I myself will guide you, and bid you guard you well, that none may harm you or stir in these lands. Then his sumpters were laid unto sawn, and the host was well between, with 500 men, with steeds and vesture, and these he took with him full merrily hence to the feasting. And now one of them later ever came alive to Bechelaren, and with a loving kiss the host parted thence, and the same did Gislia, as his gentle breeding counselled him, and in their arms they clasped fair wives. And this many a high-born maid must needs bewail in later times. And on every side they opened the elements, for the host with his liegemen would now mount their steeds. I ween their heart to tell them of their bitter woes to come, and then wept many a dame and many a comely maid. They pined for their dear kinsmen, whom nevertheless they saw in Bechelaren, yet whose road so swiftly crossed the sand, down along the Danube to the Hunnish land. Then noble Rudiger, the full and lusty knight, spake to the Burgundians, Search the tidings that we be coming to the Hun must not be left unsaid, for King Etzel hath never heard aught that pleases him more. So down through Austria the envoy spread, and to the folk on every side 'twas told that the heroes were coming from Worms beyond the Rhine. Naught could have been liftier to thy courtiers of the king. On before the envoys lasted with their tidings, that the Nibelungs were already in the Hunnish land. Thou must greet them all, Kriemhild, lady mine, the dear brothers be coming in great estate to visit thee. Within a casement window Lady Kriemhild stood, and looked out to see her kin, as friend doth for friend, and many a man she spied from her birthland. The king, too, learned the tale, and learned for very pleasure. Now well is me of my joys, quoth Kriemhild, my kinsmen being with them. Would many a brand new shield and white coat of mail. He who would have gold, let him bethink him of my sorrows, and I will forever be his friend.